So today we talk about fear, and when we talked about depression, then I said best forget about it. If you were there, you will remember that I did not find much use in depression. So, if in case of depression I can say this like for 100%, just forget about it, if you can. In case of fear, I can't really say it like that. Maybe only 99% I can say like that. But fear has some use. There's different kinds of fear. Like it goes from great panic on one side to simple prudence on the other side. And well, it's okay to be a little bit prudent. So fear has some use, and the difference is actually that the mood of fear really does not have much use except as a sixth sense. Our emotions are like a sixth sense. They tell us something which maybe we would not think of just by, rationally looking at something. We look at something and we experience fear. And this fear tells us maybe it's good to be a little prudent, to look a little bit, what is happening, so that you don't risk anything that you feel is important. So that is the function of the emotion of fear. It is like a messenger. But once you have the message, then all that you have to do is be a little bit prudent. You don't have to get into this emotion anymore. You don't have to expand it. And since it already expands very easily by itself, it is prudent to be a little careful when this feeling comes and not let it run out of hand, which it very easily does. Like, let's say you are cooking and you are thinking you need to bring some very hot pot of soup from the fire in the kitchen and you have to bring it to the living room. Then maybe you think, I better take something like a cloth or some gloves so I can take the pot without burning my fingers, and then you just do that. That's prudence. But if you start being fearful about that, then you can imagine all sorts of things. You can imagine maybe if I do that, the lid will fall off. And then you take off the lid. And then you think, yes, but if I take the pot of soup like that, then maybe some of it will spill. Or maybe I will stumble. And then you can look on the path from the kitchen to the living room, all the things that are there that might make you stumble, and clear them out of the way. And this way you are getting into some kind of craziness. And in the end your pot of soup may be burned before you actually get it off the fire and onto the table in the living room. So this is typical for fear. It makes you a little bit crazy, and then it is really not useful. It is not even just useless. It is really like a problem. It is creating especially those problems that you are afraid of. So this is a little bit like an introduction to fear. And as I said, there are many kinds. Like, we usually don't fear so much that we are going to die, because we don't have so many dangerous situations around. But we worry a lot. So worrying is also a kind of fear. We worry a lot about all the things that we are doing and that we are having and to which we are attached. And a lot of people, I believe, spend a big percentage of their time worrying. I think of all the unpleasant emotions in our society, this is probably the most dominant one. Anger is usually rather short-lived. It is there and usually it goes pretty quickly, although of course also some people get stuck there for years. But that's not so common. And there's a lot of depression around and there's a lot of sadness around, but I think the one who is around most as a mild form of fear is worrying. So worrying is there, and many people worry like all the time. And this is definitely not healthy, and it's definitely not very, entertaining. So to try to live without fear is interesting. It makes your life much more relaxed, much more enjoyable. Because fear is always about the unknown, right? We always fear the future. We cannot fear the now. The now is the now. Whatever is there, it is there. In yoga, we very often say that you have to accept what is, right? So if you want to get rid of fear, it goes even a little bit further. You have to accept whatever is to come, which is even a little more difficult, because that which is there, you know it because it is there. So then it's more easy to say, okay, I accept. But that which you don't know is a little hard. So basically, ignorance is the best thing if you don't want to be afraid. Like a baby who is completely ignorant of whatever is possible in this world is entirely unafraid. Only after it has started to move around and has had the experience that some obstacles may be there, that sometimes maybe it falls and things like that, then fear can develop. But before that there is no fear. So ignorance is the best thing. So if you are afraid of your future, stop even thinking about it, remain completely ignorant about it, and the fear will not be there. Right? But so that's not so easy. Fear is about your attachments. Whatever you are attached to, you are afraid to lose it. And some fear even may be about things that you hope to get. And then the hope has made you imagine that you will get it. And the moment that you imagine that you will get it, it's almost as if you already have it. And so then you can start also fearing that it won't happen. So it's quite a crazy situation. But so it's all about attachment. So in a way, working with fear is a very spiritual kind of work. If you can remove fear, then you really have moved ahead quite a lot. Because you cannot just deal with fear like that. There's a lot of things that you can do when you work with fear. One might say even that the main problem in fear is mind. Mind running out of control. Mind spinning all kinds of fearful thoughts, and you kind of believe in them. So this is mostly then a mental problem. So if a person comes and says, I have a lot of fear, then the first thing to work on is mind. Just calm down mind, and these thoughts will be less. And we can talk about the body, and we can talk about many things where you can work to make the fear less. But essentially, the fear is of the ego. The fear is of the ego. The fear is very existential. And many fears are actually just alternatives to the basic fear of death. The ego is the one who identifies with the body, or identifies with a certain job or position, with certain relationships, with a very nice car, or a very nice house, and all that. It is the ego who has all these attachments, and it is from all these attachments that fear will come. But the essence is much more, let's say, serious. It is the ego who is afraid to stop existing, who is even afraid of non-existence, who is afraid of not existing. And of course, very rightly so. Because the ego does not exist. It is just an idea that I am some kind of individual who is very important. That is just an idea. So, this idea is wrong. So obviously, all the time, we are running around in fear of this idea being wrong. And this way, we are finding all kinds of things to which we attach ourselves in order to prove that this idea is not wrong. I exist because I have a house. I exist because I have a wife, or children, or a job, or this or that. So, in that way, working with fear is quite essential. And the only true solution is truth. There's only one real solution for fear. It is the truth. And the truth is that indeed you do not exist as you think you exist. And I'm not saying that in a negative sense. You might feel like now I'm saying that you are less than you think you are. But the truth is that you are a lot more than you think you are. You are not at all limited to the form that you have now. In fact, you are not limited to any form at all. We are all one, and one the same. So, even if I die, everything will still continue. That is pretty obvious. And since I am everything, that also means that I am continuing. Even if I, die. So, this is very essential. You can solve this one, like not just on an intellectual level, but really from your heart. Feel it like that. Feel that you are everyone and everything. And then there is nothing more to be afraid of. And in this way, many of the saints and deities or the Buddha, they will hold their hand like this in the Mudra of Fearlessness. It is the most important thing that they have to offer you. If you go on the spiritual path, fearlessness will become yours. A little gradual process, but still, that is the essence. So, I am not saying you don't have to live your life. I am not saying you don't have to be whoever you are in this form and do the things you think you are supposed to do. But just don't take it so very seriously. It's all, passing time. Your form is just passing time. And when the time is past, the time is past. We all come with a due date. And that is not like a horrible thing. That's actually quite a fantastic thing. Because after death you will live on anyhow. You will take other forms. And in truth you are everything and all forms. So, in spirituality you learn to trust. So then very often when people start trusting in God, then they believe, if I trust in God then everything will be all right. Then I will not have any problem. And I'm sorry, that's a wrong idea. It is not like that. I mean, there are guardian angels and guarding spirits, and it's very good to pray to God and to be with God and to kind of fit within a divine purpose on earth. Then indeed you have the best chance for getting good support. So all that is very good. But truly, the answer is not in surviving this life. It is not in living forever in this form. Sometimes there is like a movie, and then there's like one person or something who becomes immortal. I guess many movies have this theme because we all kind of dream of being immortal. But then when you go into these stories, then it becomes very clear that being immortal always in the same form is very boring. Then have these guys hanging around for 1,000 years or many thousands of years, and they become pretty bored with themselves. They don't know what to do. Within that form that they have, they've already done everything that they can think of, and then they get bored. And that creates all sorts of problems. So this immortality that we are all like subconsciously wanting, when you start thinking about it, is pretty useless. So you have to learn to be happy that you don't exist. You have to learn to be happy that you are temporary. You have to learn to be happy that you are ending in this form. And you can be happy about it because you are looking beyond this form. Because you are going deep inside and finding the eternal self. And you are no longer bound by this form thinking. And so you are no longer afraid. But so, fear has some purpose. It's a natural thing. Like we have hands, and we have feet, and we have a brain, and we have a tongue to speak with, and we have fear, which is like a sense organ, teaching us a little bit, what to do, how to do it, and, it's a little help. In India, they have this saying that every good husband is afraid of his wife. And in that way also you can say socially. Socially also, fear has its purpose. Every person in authority also uses fear to keep his authority. Like if there would be no prisons, so there would be no fear of having to go to prison, well, one might wonder, what would happen. Or if with a class of 25 wild kids, some element of fear will be there, They will know that if they go too far, some punishment will be there. So, in that way, I'm not saying fear is totally useless, but we are here in a yoga class. We are not talking about how to organize society. We are talking about yoga. And in yoga, we learn to get rid of fear. So, as I said, there are many things involved. And first of all, of course, there is the body. Some fear may come from the body. And definitely, fear will easily be stimulated by the body. We'll take just one example. Some people really don't eat enough. For whatever reason. But they don't eat enough. They go hungry a lot. The body will be fearful of that. If a person is too thin, then all these body cells will be thinking, there's a crisis going on. We are not getting enough food. So the stock market in your body will go down and everybody will panic and will create distress signals all over, especially through the nerve cells. And they may cause fear. So in that way, fear is related to the element of wind in the body, or rather to the dosha called vata. Vata has the element of wind, but also the element of akash or space. And that actually has to do with the power of imagination that is typical for fear. Fear is all about imagination, because fear is all about the future. And about the future, we don't have any idea. So all we can do is imagining. So that is why Akash is there. And actually, if you have a very sudden fear, then you will get a metallic taste in your mouth. This is very typical. Like maybe you have to jump out of the way from a car who's coming very fast or something. You think about it, you will remember this taste will come, a metallic taste. This is the taste of Akash. So keeping Vata under control is very important to reduce worrying and all other kinds of fear. For some people who know about Ayurveda, this is quite easy, but I'll just give a few guidelines. Everything which produces gas in your belly is producing Vata. In that way, there's a lot going wrong. Like for example, here in the West, many people, they are becoming vegetarians, which is very good. Because actually meat also can be a cause of fear. If you eat meat from a pig which was very afraid when it died, then definitely some of that fear you also will get. But vegetarians here, they don't really know how to cook vegetarian food very often. So then they start eating lots of pulses, lentils, chickpeas, and all these things without proper preparation. They just like boil them like they would make rice. But if you do it like that, then a lot of gas will be there in the stomach, in the intestines, and a lot of worrying will come, and they will have no idea where it's coming from. So in that way, and this is just generally speaking in yoga, and definitely if you want to learn to be less fearful, you need to learn to control your food and to understand about food and know what it does to you and learn to cook properly. Otherwise, it's like rowing against the stream. Your body will always be making you feel stressed. So, some herbs and spices actually are there with which you can make those things, like also cabbages and onions and other things that make gas, called asafoetida, in English called devil's shit, because it has like a particular smell. But it's very tasty. And oregano and many other things. I have other classes like that. So, Vata is related to fear and is also related to Shanta Rasa. Shanta Rasa being the rasa of peace. In that way, peace very much is the opposite of fear. And this mudra of fearlessness also often is called the Mudra of Peace. So, this relationship is also there in the Vata, meaning that in Shanta, the Vata is completely balanced. Pure prana. Vata in its purest form is pure prana. So then the energy is there, you are not without energy, but it is calm, it is stable, it is in harmony. So that is the objective when it comes to the body. And then, for example, pranayama can be very helpful. And in any case, whenever you feel like you are in a panic, there is one thing you can do with your body which works like instantly, and that is to stop breathing for a while. Just to hold your breath for a while. And this fearful thinking in your mind will come down very, very rapidly. You just breathe in, hold the breath, 5 seconds, whatever you can manage, like without becoming afraid. And then slowly breathe out, that is also very important. And again, breathe in, hold it for a few seconds, slowly breathe out. That is like instantly. Your worrying, your panic will go, and you will be able to think a little bit more normally about this subject, which you probably then need to do. But so, working with breath, working with prana is very good. And to remove vata, some pitta, for those who know Ayurveda, is also interesting, which basically means fire. So some pungent spices or foods are at that moment also very good. Regular use of ginger, regular use of the pepper honey mixture, regular use of spicy foods, not in excess, but some of it will also help to reduce vata and remove fear. And definitely also there, if you are feeling very afraid, take some ginger, fresh ginger, and chew it, maybe with a little water to not make it too hot, and then very rapidly this fear will become less. Many other things can be done there, maybe also a little bit on more longer term, like wearing pearls, eating pearl powder, wearing red coral, eating red coral powder. These are all typical remedies on more longer term. As I said, with the body it is very good to have a little body mass. You don't have to become fat to get rid of fear, but you need a little bit more reserve in your body. This will also very much keep your body calm. And you also need to be in your body, meaning you have to work with your body. At that time, asana is very good, dancing is very good, martial arts are very, very good, because they are really like based on the enemy rasa of courage. So all these things are very good, working with your body and getting out of the mind, getting more into the reality of this body is very good. Cold should be avoided also. Hunger should be avoided, cold should be avoided. Because if you are cold, then you start shaking. And if you are afraid, then also you start shaking. So both are a little similar. And if you are cold and you have reason to be in a panic, then the panic will be even more. Fear, in terms of gunas, is rajasic tamasic, which means that fear usually comes in a very rajasic way, which means very active way. You start running around, you start thinking a lot, so this is where fear comes. But when fear goes even further than that, then it becomes really tamasic, meaning then you are frozen in fear. Then you can no longer move. Then you can no longer think about what needs to be done, and then you're also not doing anything. And this is also true for many people who are caught by fear, who are always worrying but not doing anything. The worrying actually is stopping them from doing anything about the things they are worrying about, which is quite crazy. And fear has this craziness. Fear is a little bit crazy. So anyhow, the body is there. Some fear will go in the muscles, definitely, and then again come out. So better make it go out in exercise. And also in the belly, in the organs, fear can be there. You immediately feel that. If you are afraid, then your belly will start feeling a little strange. So this is the stress which is going there. And if you leave it there, then afterwards it will again come out and stimulate your fear. So then best remove it in a different way. Exercise, and especially belly breathing. Deep inhaling towards the belly and then letting everything drop, exhaling like rapidly, so that the organs can release that stress. Fear is stress. Stress has some other elements also in it. Like a little bit of anger is there, a little irritation is there in stress also. So it's a little bit a mixture of fear and anger. But actually very often we find fear and anger coming not together but alternating each other. One moment we are a little bit irritated and angry, and the next moment we are afraid. This is also known in Western psychology. It's called the fight-flee response. Like we always have that choice. And so to get rid of this stress, we have to work with our body. I think for all unpleasant emotions, the body is most important to work with when it comes to fear. Others also, but fear the most. In working with our body, we can really relax the body and let the fear go. Let it go into the earth or whatever technique that we are using. So obviously, if you are a little bit in a panic or worrying, drinking coffee is not a good idea. Whatever stimulates your mind to think even more fast is not a good idea. So caffeine, whatever brings caffeine, is not good. And there definitely also some people have a serious issue. Some people just drink too much coffee. I'm not saying you shouldn't drink any coffee. I'm just saying that if you drink 8 cups a day or something, it's going to be hard not to be afraid. It's going to be hard to be calm. So why do it? Alcohol is different. Alcohol will more produce fire. So alcohol should be avoided, especially if you have issues with anger, because alcohol will fire the anger. Actually, for fear, a little alcohol is not bad. Just a little. Because it is fire, and fire chases away wind, air. And so, in that way, not such a very bad idea. So this is more or less, I think, what I can say about the body. And then we come to mind. And as I said, fear is largely mental.